Hi and welcome back to MMAnytt's podcast, and we've got two guests with us today. On top of, obviously, as always, Daria Berenato, who's here after winning her amateur debut 2 weeks ago now. No, 1 week ago.
Like a week ago, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, as you can tell, she didn't get hit much. We've got Terrion Ware back in the studio again, who just came back from winning the BAMMA title last week.
Defending. Yes,
not just winning. He won it again by defending it. And we got Kevin Casey with us as well from the Ultimate Fighter 17, Strike Force, KO Dynamite in Japan.
Yeah, K1 Olympia.
K1, UFC, and next up, Metamoris 5 for you.
Yes, sir.
RFA as well, RFA champion. A little bit of a snuffle in the last fight. It was a beautiful knockout, but it's been declared a non-contest because of testing positive for what was it called?
Jostanolone.
And you're how long are you on suspension for that?
I'm currently on a 1-year suspension.
But after a year you'll be allowed back in again.
100%.
And awesome. No problems getting on to Metamoris with that.
No issues right now. You know, I've settled everything with the commission, and you know, I did something that was against the rules, and I'm paying the consequence for that, and now I'm moving forward in a positive, clean way.
Good. Nice to hear. Nice to hear. You got a decent match in the Metamoris. You're fighting Vinny Magalhaes, who have you trained before together?
Well, Vinny was actually one of the coaches on the season 17 Ultimate Fighter, so we had a chance to mix it up a little bit, and you know, so we know what to expect going in. So you know. Vinny's a highly decorated guy, won Abu Dhabi, multiple world champion. So this is a step up for me as far as being able to go out there and showcase my abilities, because generally the jiu-jitsu community isn't aware of my technical skills, because most of the time I'm training for some sort of MMA event, and it's rare that I have the full camp to prepare for a jiu-jitsu competition. So now I'm off a full camp, and I have a lot of training partners and a lot of people there, and I'll be there to just represent and show people what I'm about.
But at the same time, I think a lot of people do know who you are, being a Rickson Gracie black belt. You've been at the Rickson Gracie Academy for a long time. Very close friends with Rickson's late son, Haxon. You know, you're pretty decorated yourself.
Well, you know, I like to think I know a little something about the game.
So, who have you brought in for this game? You train at Black House in Los Angeles, getting ready for MMA fights. You got Lyoto Machida, you got Teixeira, you got a bunch of different fighters to train with. Who are you bringing in? I know Half Grace has been down there training some for his fights, but who are you bringing in for Metamoris too?
Right now, currently, I train with Terrion Gracie, Hinner Gracie, a lot of the guys out of the Gracie camp. You know, Rickson gives me some details as far as some of my strategy going into all these competitions, and you know, I have Kenny Johnson with the wrestling techniques, and I feel that my wrestling has really jumped to the next level, and I'm just going to be out there to have fun, and I have plenty of tough training partners coming in the Black House. We
had Kenny on a couple of weeks ago, actually, when you were getting ready to fight, and one of the things Kenny did was it called out Terrion, saying, "What happened to working on your wrestling and coming in and working with him?"
On the record. Kenny hit me up after my Joe Soto fight, and he was like, "Come down for wrestling." So I hit him up, and I was like, "When's the best time to come down?" I'm sorry. When's the best time to come down? And he didn't respond to me. So then I just showed up one day with Pedro, and he was like, "Oh, good." And so we did wrestling practice, and then he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be gone for the next week or so, and I'll be back here and there." And then I hit him up. I'm like, "Are you back? When are you back?" And he didn't respond to me. So it's pretty funny though. But
he's a great coach, but he is a hard guy to get your hands on. I had him on my show like a month or so ago. He's a very busy guy.
Kenny's very busy.
He's the coach of Black House. He travels all over with his fighters. Wherever the fighters go, he go. But
and he has his own gym as well.
That's
Black House in Redondo Beach.
Right.
Do you ever go down there?
I have been down there, and I think there's some good black belts that he has there. I'm not familiar with their names, but there's some tough guys over there.
Now, so for this last fight, when you defended your belt against Jeff Martin, which was every fight. You go out there, first round, you're in trouble again. There was a Kimura. He had your back for a minute. Yeah. I'm sure that wasn't part of the game plan.
No, I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm fighting guys that I've only been professional 2.5 years. I've only been training for about 4.5 years. Everyone that I'm fighting has a lot more years of experience on me. So and the last couple fights I've been going against guys that are high level grapplers, guys that are brown belts, black belts, and me, I'm still just a blue belt. So going in there and these guys, they're coming out, they're being very, very aggressive, and I push a pace. And I've made small mistakes, and these guys are good grapplers and able to capitalize on. But I'm very tough to finish, so when these guys have my back, I'm not worried or anything about it. I know once I get out of it, then I'm able to implement my game plan. But that's just been the case. I mean, you look at my other fights when I fight guys with less of a grappling pedigree, I don't get in trouble in the first round. It's just the last 3 or 4 guys have been high level grapplers, and that's still a part of my game that I have to work on. I grew up as a striker. I've been striking since I was 5 years old. Grappling is brand new to me. I've never had any grappling experience since I started MMA. I'd never had any wrestling or any jiu-jitsu since I started MMA. And I'm fighting guys in my weight class at 135. They're plagued with wrestlers. Like that word, plagued. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone in my weight class have a background in wrestling. And so there's a lot of 35ers out there. So I'm adjusting to it. My ground is getting better. Even with that said, I triangled him in the first round as well too.
That's true.
So, I did the same thing with Joe Soto. Joe Soto's a high-level brown belt under to Dave Terrell. I had him in a triangle. So, I just got to get out of having these, making these mistakes in the first round. Ian said he keeps scaring. He's getting tired of it. He's just scaring the shit out of me.
Ian's like, don't scare the shit out of me like that.
Sounds like he's scared crap out of everyone that was on in that room that night. Did you feel that you were in trouble?
No. Initially, when he took me down, I actually rolled and reversed it. And I ended up in his guard, and he was going for the Kimura, and he had a reverse triangle on it, and I stepped over. But not at any point did I ever feel in trouble. Even when he was on my back, and we made this bet here on the podcast. You said, I think it was on the podcast, but you said Jeff Martin's he's good at taking your back. And the whole time we were training, you're like, I'm gonna work taking your back. And I told you he wouldn't take my back, and if he did, he wouldn't have both hooks in for more than 3 seconds. So when he took my back, he had one hook in for maybe 2 seconds, and then
did you think about it?
I thought about it. I swear to you, I thought about it. And I don't know if that was just my motivation to make sure that he didn't get both hooks in because of Marcus.
That is so funny.
I don't want to be proved wrong. But right after that, I got out of it. He went for an ankle lock. I was never in trouble. I sat up, punched him in the face a couple times, and then the round was over. So
I think. Go ahead.
Jeff Martin is a tough opponent. I know Jeff for a long time as well. I hate when I see two people that fighting each other.
It's the
and
worst.
You broke his jaw. I spoke to Jeff the day after, and you knew that his tooth had come out.
Yeah.
But you actually broke his jaw in the first round. He fought 3 more rounds with a broken jaw.
Yeah, I had no idea because it was weird to me, especially in the second round when he started running from me, because Jeff is usually he's really aggressive. He's really aggressive and going and pushing the fight. And I was confused why he was running away from me, but now that it makes sense that his jaw was broken. So
wow, that says a lot about him as a fighter as well.
Absolutely.
Sticking through there for 3-4 more rounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it also says a lot about your striking because when you watch Terrion strike, he's so composed, so calm. You almost don't think the punches are that hard because he looks effortless when he throws them. But we obviously see the damage on the opponent's face time and time again that they are hitting with power.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's something I've been doing since I was 5 years old. I'm very, very comfortable. I'm comfortable with getting hit. I'm comfortable just in the fighting itself. I love to fight. It's something I love to do. If I could do this for free and not have to make a living and just had money, I'd still do it. It's something I love to do. So when I go in there, there's no reason to be worried. I don't think. If you train hard enough, you train for everything. And then just accepting the fact that when you sign on that dotted line, there's a chance you can always lose. You can not get knocked out. You can get submitted. And I think a lot of guys who fight, who have anxiety about fighting, they don't come to terms with that. They go in there, their training camp like, oh, I'm gonna win every single time, and they don't think about the losing aspect, and they don't accept that part of it. That there's a chance you could lose, and I've accepted that. And so for me, I just go out there and I treat it. It's fun. It's fun to me. I almost treat it like a video game where I'm just going out there and I'm just having fun. I'm just trying to strategize and do everything that I need to do, and not worried about losing. So I don't fight not to lose. I fight to compete, and I fight to win every single time.
A little bit more painful than video games, though. Right?
Yeah, a little bit more painful.
And you're the complete opposite, Kevin. You trained just jiu-jitsu for a very, very long time, even though we just found out you actually started with Kempo karate, you said, right? When you were young.
Yes. Now, once I got under the Gracie lineage, I had, you know, these guys to look up to, you know, the Hoist Gracies, the Hickson Gracies, the Hoyler Gracies.
Right.
So everything that they told me was gold. And I almost had a closed mind to the other aspects of mixed martial arts. I had a one-dimensional approach, and I noticed that sometimes it made the fight harder for me because everyone knew what my intention was. My intention was to come in, put pressure, take them down, and there was no versatility in my attack. Although I had trained striking for over 4 years, I hadn't built up that actual fight experience and that confidence in my striking.
Right.
So once I got into the actual action, I was a little more tentative with throwing the strikes. Once I got to the RFA, I knew that it was time to mix it up. And once I started, you know, I think I was fighting Casey Ryan in my debut for RFA, and I punched him in the face in the fight, and it was one of the first times where I just went out on the limb and said, you know what, I'm gonna strike tonight. And once I hit his face and I felt that feeling of hitting him in the face, it almost felt like he just let me hit him. And right there, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna start punching people in the face. And I think I outscored him with the striking. You know, I moved on to, you know, in the RFA title to knock out Andrew Sanchez with a great combination. You know, when you look at it, it looks like I've been doing this for years. But, you know, I just, you know, recently got the 100% confidence in all of my abilities.
But would you say that, so I've trained with you for a long time, and I've seen your development as well, not just in the striking department, but, you know, you in one of your first fights, you go out and fight Matt Linland at the main event, right, for Strikeforce. And then the Ultimate Fighter, you were on there, you got a chance in the UFC, and then you came back into the UFC after RFA. You're a very athletic guy, and you always had the opportunity. But and I've been able to see both your setbacks and your comebacks, which that confidence, one, where does it come from? And have you ever thought, you know, this is it, I'm just going to give up? You always seem to just keep going, and you've developed as a fighter so much the past 3 years versus your past, I'd say, 5 years before that.
Well, what it is being realistic with myself. You know, I understood that I never had an amateur career. You know, my first fight was in K1 in Japan. I fought Ikuhisa Minoa, which was like, you know, one of their top ranked Japanese fighter. He had over 73 fights experience to my 0. So a lot of fighters.
Only in Japan.
Only in Japan is right.
Right. A lot of fighters, they build up that confidence in the amateur ranks, and then they go into their pro already with experience. So I knew that there was going to take some time for me to develop. So there was never a question of my skills or my ability. So I never doubted myself, regardless of if it was a win or a loss. I knew that I had to develop. And I just happened to develop in these big organizations and in these big fights. So now, you know, I'm 13 fights in, and I have I know how to run my camp. I know how to rest. I know where to put the energy, because you can't put your energy everywhere at once. So, you know, now I have everything firing on all cylinders, and now I just feel hard to beat.
And you had 2 knockouts in a row, and you're obviously working a lot on your striking. We see you do that, and, you know, with training partners such as Lyoto Machida and Glover and so forth.
I think it was 3 knockouts in a row.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think elbow strikes counted.
They definitely count.
We count those.
It was 1 TKO.
All right.
Where there was a stoppage, which is still considered correct, but it was 2 KOs where you hit him with 1 punch and they were out.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yes.
And then now you got to go back to your roots. You got to go back to the jiu-jitsu again, right? Is it uncomfortable? Do you feel like because when you focus on mixed martial arts, it's a different style of jiu-jitsu, would you agree?
Definitely.
Versus going back to now to the drawing boards to do what you started doing. Do you feel like you've slowed down? Is it different?
No, it's just training differently. You know, moving my body to acclimate back to the time limit. Because right now I'm in preparation for a 20-minute time limit as opposed to a 5-minute, you know, quick burst. So it's just acclimating my body to get through that duration and to still be able to push hard throughout the whole match.
What is it like preparing for an MMA fight versus a jiu-jitsu match? I mean, are the nerves different? Are the worries different? Or is it pretty much the same? You're an athlete and you're going to compete in something you've been training.
Well, I feel like there's always going to be pressure whenever you go in to compete, especially when you have a high expectation for yourself and your performance. But not worrying about getting knocked out is something that makes you a lot more relaxed.
Definitely. So you'd say there's less nerves.
There's less, for sure.
Probably also because you've been doing jiu-jitsu longer than mixed martial arts, right?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like you're home going back there.
Yeah, it feels a little more relaxed, comfort. You know, it's just second nature.
Right.
Do you feel that being able to be a good striker is more important since you got married to Muhammad Ali's daughter?
I mean, I know I felt more of a responsibility to knock someone out.
Has he given you any tips?
I was just gonna say that.
Not too many tips. He thinks that MMA is very violent. Especially a guy who knocks people out thinks that. But I feel personally responsible to knock some people out. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's funny. So he doesn't, give you some pointers. He's kind of like, is he like an anti-MMA?
Not anti-MMA, but he just thinks it's very violent, and it's much more violent than he's used to, I would say.
Okay.
Has he been to see any of your fights?
Not yet, but hopefully when I get back to going into the UFC and fighting some of those big cards, he'll come.
So at your wedding, Ed Suarez, who's a very famous manager, obviously managing Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida, yourself, who was at your wedding, and I was sitting with Ed, and Ed goes, when he saw Muhammad Ali at the wedding, he said, "Wow, I never get starstruck. I've been with the biggest of names. I'm starstruck right now."
Wow.
And that's from someone who's been around the UFC for a long time, and being the president of the RFA brought you in. Do you feel like Ed has been a big part of your success?
Definitely. Ed has created so many different opportunities for me, and regardless of my performance or how I've done out there, Ed has always had my back. So it feels good to go out there and perform, and I know he puts his name on the line every time he gets me into an event, and puts me in the headline or gets me to the UFC. So I'm always happy to go out there and just produce and just live up to the expectations.
And now, Terrion, whose next step is to get into the UFC. You're very vocal about it. You've asked for a chance so many times. You were so close with the Joe Soto fight, and then, being the last man to face Joe Soto before he gets the title shot against TJ Dillashaw with 1 day's notice. What do you think is left for you to prove in order to get into the UFC, and would you have any tips in order to get there?
You want to go first?
Well, it's just all about staying active. Yeah. They can't keep you out forever.
Right.
You just keep knocking at the door, and regardless of, I'm not familiar with your record. I don't know where you're at now, but
12-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on your way. So just keep doing it. You have the title now.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, just stay focused and don't fight safe. Like stay put in on the performances, and you'll be there in no time, guaranteed.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And what do you feel is left?
I mean, honestly, it doesn't seem, especially in Southern California, I don't know how many more people left there is for me to fight, outside of the UFC. And again, like all my fights, I know the UFC, that you hear Dana, all these guys talking about it constantly. They want exciting fighters. They don't want guys to go in there and play it safe and push guys up against the fence or lay on them on the ground. And all my fights are exciting. Regardless whether even the fights that I've lost, they're exciting. With my record being 12-3, I have 8 finishes and 5 4 first round finishes. I think I'm an exciting fighter, and I think it's something that the UFC would want to see, and the UFC fans would be happy watching my fights. And again, like you said, all I can do is just keep winning and keep putting on exciting fights, and hopefully they give me a shot.
And Daria, how soon are you planning on turning pro? And in-house, how long? How many more fights would you have as an amateur before turning pro?
The minimum, so 3 more fights.
You need to have 4 in order to turn pro now?
Yeah, I think you have to 4 fights.
I think it's 5.
5 fights?
Yeah.
Okay, well then 4 more.
The sport is evolving a lot.
Yeah, I talked to my coaches, James Heel and Ian Harris, and I think we all agree that I don't want to damage myself and take 12 amateur fights and have all this damage done and then go pro when I'm not getting paid. So I definitely want to make a career out of this. So I'm gonna take my amateur fights and I'm gonna go pro. So hopefully maybe a year or 2.
Nice,
Right.
nice. We got 179 next week, UFC 179. A couple of things on there. Obviously, Christos Giorgos has been on here a few times and part of Systems Training Center as well, making his UFC debut and against the Brazilian in Brazil, was undefeated and who's also been on Tough. Is it different to walk in to the when you in the UFC versus any other fight?
100%. And it's I've been in the situation where I've had the Dana White and the Joe Silva come into the locker room right before the fight and tell you what's on the line, and you get there, and it's as much as you try to downplay it, you can't help but to feel the energy. You're around all the people that you watch on TV, and you know how important this is for your career and moving forward. So you almost put that pressure on yourself too. So I believe it takes a little bit of experience in that actual arena before you're able to just let it go and let it be another day in the gym.
And so on that card, UFC 179 next week, we've got Aldo versus Mendes. Have you ever trained with Aldo? Because I know Aldo has been to Black House in the past.
I have not personally.
Who do you think will win? Any guesses on that one?
Who do I want to win or who do I think
I
is
like
going to
Aldo.
win?
Aldo?
I like Aldo.
I like Mendes.
Yeah? That's who you want to win, or that's who you think is going to win, or both?
That's not who I think is going to win, but it's who I want. I got to be honest.
Great way to phrase a question, Marcus.
I think Aldo. I think Aldo's he's more versatile, and I don't know. It's just something about certain guys that have that it factor. You know what it is, and he's one of the guys that has it.
Yeah.
I mean, as good as Chad Mendes is, and as much he's been improving, and the guys he's knocked out like his last 4 fights, they're not Aldo. So.
And Aldo has that killer instinct that very few fighters have. I mean, he's out there to get it, and he puts it all on the line. So I think Aldo's definitely a hard guy to beat just because of that.
Another man who is always puts it on the line and punches hard is Glover Teixeira, who you've trained with a lot.
Yeah.
And he's fighting Phil Davis. His last fight was against John Jones. I thought he was going to be able to do more against John Jones than he actually was able to.
Right.
But I guess his shoulder was popped from that first round. Any takes on that fight?
Glover always is an exciting fighter to watch. He's very he's very unorthodox with his takedowns, and he's very knowledgeable on the ground. So I think his striking is much better than Phil's.
Yeah.
Phil has pretty good movement, pretty good takedowns, but we see like a guy like Lyoto who was able to stuff Phil's takedowns, almost 8-10 times in a fight. So I think Glover will pull it off on the cards and possibly get a knockout in the second.
Oh, knockout in the second for Glover.
Possibly.
I like it.
Quite possibly.
And you?
Yeah, same thing. I think he's a good grappler. He's a good wrestler, but I think he's gonna have a hard time taking Glover down. And Phil's shown in the past against guys who hit hard, he kind of shies away from the action. Rashad beat him to the punch. Same thing with Anthony Johnson. I think he's gonna have a tough time. I think Glover hits way too hard, and I think he's not gonna. I think the only way he can take him down is if he sets up his takedowns with his striking. But I think he's gonna shy away from being close enough and being hit by Glover to take him down.
And then November, just because you've trained with Fabrice Verdum with me as well, I know you have respect for his ground game. How do you think he will do against Cain Velasquez?
You know what? To be honest with you, the Verdum I saw against what was it, Travis Brown, the last fight, was just unbelievable. His cardio, his movement, his fluidity with the strikes. Like I saw a completely different Verdum than I've ever seen in the ring, and I think he has what it takes, and I think he's gonna be even better. And I think he might be able to pull this one out. I mean, it's definitely a war. It's definitely a war.
Yeah,
but I'm on Team Verdum for this one.
Yeah, and I don't think it will go 5 rounds. 2 heavyweights that size, both with a killer instinct. It doesn't take much. 4-ounce gloves, and then Verdum with his jiu-jitsu and Cain with his ground and pound. So it'll be interesting to see. Metamoris 5. What's the date on that one?
November 22nd.
And
that's when the action happens.
And even if you're not in Los Angeles, you can still get it. You can stream. You can buy. I think it's pay-per-view online, and watch that. Vinny Magalhaes. Who's the main event on that one?
The main event is actually Kazushi Sakuraba, and
yes.
Renzo Gracie. So this one is one of those legendary matchups that I can't even believe they were able to pull this one off and put that together. So
that is so cool.
I'll be a fan at the same time as a competitor in the same night.
Have you had a chance to train with Renzo?
I haven't trained with Renzo yet.
You haven't? Being one of the family members, obviously, and having the Henry and Heron being the guys behind this as well, Metamoris along with
Halleck Gracie.
Halleck is the main guy, but they're all doing it together, right, as a family, or is it Halleck by himself? Or?
This is mainly Halleck's baby, and it's always a Gracie community what they're doing together.
Yeah, and they always manage to get that one matchup, don't they? It's always the one that everyone wanted to see that might not have happened, or at least to get it to happen now in grappling. Any takes on that one, Hansel?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I've been just completely impressed with the main events that Metamoris has been able to put together. It's almost like he has outdone him. Halleck has outdone himself as far as bringing these big draws of matchups that I think reach out to further than just the jiu-jitsu community. He's also bringing in the MMA aspect where you kind of tap into this worldwide fan base, and I just think I'm very happy with being a part of it. It's to see the sport starting to get a little bit more momentum and start to help the fighters out, give us some of the notoriety and some of the media outlets that Metamoris is doing. And most of the world championships you pay to compete and you're getting a medal, so now this is almost like the new frontier for jiu-jitsu.
And are you surprised that the UFC allows you guys to go and compete in tournaments? I think it's great, personally. I think it's great for Metamoris, and I think it's great for the name of jiu-jitsu, and I think it's vice versa as well. You guys get, like you said, another outlet to show your skills. But has there ever been any issues with the UFC?
As far as I know, there has not been any issues, and Dana White and all of those guys over there, they're pretty educated in as far as what's going on, and we train just as hard in every day in the gym as you would in a Metamoris match. So there's probably more at risk in our training camp than going out there and doing a grappling match.
I think it'd be a little different if these guys were doing like Thai boxing on the side or something like that. But jiu-jitsu is it's an art, I don't think there's too many injuries opposed to MMA.
And coming from a striking background, have you become a grappling fan?
Since day one. The first class I ever took when I stepped into the gym was a jiu-jitsu class. I took jiu-jitsu and then Muay Thai right after that, and then that was the first day I signed up, and I fell in love with it immediately. Even I had like girls triangling me. It was like, you would think it would be the opposite. That I was like, I'm not showing up to this gym anymore, but I just fell in love with it because I couldn't believe the fact that this art it's developed where, a girl is 20 pounds lighter than me is able to make me tap out, to make me give up. So I fell in love with it from day one, and I've been doing, my first jiu-jitsu tournament, I entered, I was a white belt, I entered into the intermediate level where it was blue and purple, and I won. So I've been wanting to do jiu-jitsu competitions more and more. I haven't had a chance to do it because I've been so active with between amateur fights and pro fights. I've had 27 fights in like 4 years. But I plan on right now I have a little hiatus, and I'm not really sure when my next fight's gonna be. So I'll plan to do like some boxing fights and jiu-jitsu fights, just to stay active.
Boxing, really?
Yeah.
Pro boxing?
Yeah, I have to. Being a pro MMA fighter, you can't have an amateur boxing fight. So I plan to do that. But yeah, and I love what Metamoris is doing, what Halleck is doing. Like you said, it's a new revolution where it's becoming like pro jiu-jitsu. And it's just a matter of time before you start seeing, like how like Glory Kickboxing's on Spike. You're gonna start seeing professional jiu-jitsu matches where it'll be like a ranking system where you're gonna have guys that are champions in weight classes, and they're gonna have tournaments, they're gonna have events with pro jiu-jitsu. And I think it's a great way to share this art with the world, because most people outside, the casual fans, they know what MMA is because they like seeing the excitement, but they don't quite understand the grappling aspects of it. And it's really just, the people in MMA and the people in the jiu-jitsu world who understand jiu-jitsu and know what it is. And I think with Metamoris, it'll put it, have it on a bigger stage and a bigger platform where eventually, they're going to start, it's going to start getting so big where, a network television might pick it up and expose it to the world. And I think it's just great for, for jiu-jitsu and MMA all around.
Well, one of the things that I think the general public doesn't really realize is, due to jiu-jitsu not being in the Olympics, a lot of these guys who win these tournaments would be the same guys who win the gold, the silver, and the bronze if there were Olympics. But because it's not there yet. These guys aren't getting the notoriety, and they're not being recognized, worldwide for being the top talent. So I think this is one thing that is in the step in that direction, as far as getting these guys their notoriety and actually helping them be able to provide for their family, because these are world class athletes, and they're barely getting by a lot of the times if they don't have a school, or if they're not in these big tournaments.
Right.
And Renzo Gracie, you say Renzo versus Sakuraba. Who'd you believe will win?
Renzo.
I have no idea. I have no idea what Sakuraba's been doing.
That's true.
I've seen his fights in Pride, and he broke Renzo's arm with a Kimura, right? Was that him who broke Renzo's arm?
That was him.
Yeah. So I have no idea what he's doing. I can easily sit here and just say Renzo because of his name, but I have no idea what Sakuraba's been doing and what kind of what type of all around jiu-jitsu game he has. But if I had to pick, I'd say Renzo.
This is definitely one of those revenge matches, and I think when you take away the aspects of the striking, the technique of Renzo will prevail.
I think so too. I think Renzo will take it just because how active I know he is with his guys, always training. One thing you can't do though, Renzo, you can't outdrink a Swede. I won that competition. We were down in Israel drinking together. I won, it.
You were in Israel drinking with him?
It was a huge fight. I was with Frank Trigg, and he was with Daniel Gracie, who were fighting down there. And then the night of the fight, it was funny because Daniel Gracie fought a Swedish guy, actually, so I helped him out as well.
Oh, that's
funny. Daniel Gracie broke his nose. And he said, the Swedish guy said, hey, can you fix my nose? I'm like, it's going to hurt, right? And then at night, Renzo goes, no problem, I fix. And he goes, puts the nose back into place.
Oh!
And then he's like, you Swedish people, Viking, you can drink, but not like a Brazilian. I'm like, all right, it's on. And it was a bad night, yeah. But I won.
Did you won?
I think I won.
Who was keeping count? Hopefully not you guys.
No. it was real bad.
Last man standing.
That's how you judge it.
So looking forward to seeing you at Metamoris. Definitely be there. Congratulations to getting that fight, and good luck in the fight. And Terrion, looking forward to see what's next for you. If it is the UFC, I know RFA is coming back to Los Angeles. Maybe you get a show on there.
Definitely.
And Daria, future in mixed martial arts. I didn't know you were that dedicated to it.
I am. This is just, this goes along with it. I love talking about it, but my heart is in the sport itself.
Nice to hear. Thanks, guys, for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
All right.